All right, so we're live now. Uh, I'm Craig Patti with my partner, Kraig Moisan. Is that how you pronounce it, Craig?
Yep, perfect.
Moisan? Uh, Doing our interviews for interacting with media. So, Craig, we'll begin with yours. And the first question I have for you is tell me about yourself, your career accomplishments, education, and your career goals.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I have been in the fire service for 21 years. I have had quite a few accomplishments in my career. I am currently station captain at the Beaverton Station 67, which is Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue's busiest station by number of call volumes and number of programs and uh, public events. Um, Before that, I was at station 60 or 57, and just for a couple years, which is our slowest station, which has been both a number of challenges and accomplishments at both. I accomplished two different large projects at while I was at 57. One was a multi-company operations drill for the entire fire district on water tender operations, and the second one was a district-wide purchase of coats. And before that, I was a lieutenant for 10 years, and also on the technical rescue team. I was also a driver, and then I was part of the merger between Oregon City. So I feel like um, I have quite a variety of different positions in the fire department, but also accomplishments with each one. During the technical rescue time, I also taught the entire fire district extrication for the 8 years I was on the team. Other things just about me. I'm married with two kids. Like to travel a lot. Have spent quite a few. I've traveled around the world quite a bit and met my wife in Vietnam, and we continue to go back there yearly. So successful at home and successful at work. I feel like I have a lot of accomplishments, and I'm really proud of them all.
Great. Um, Education and career goals.
So I'm currently at Eastern Oregon University finishing my bachelor's in fire administration. I have 10 more credits to go, and I'll be have that completed. And that's my biggest educational goal. I've really excited to finish that. It's really helping me with my daily, really job functions at Beaverton with a number of public events and number of projects and programs. It's really given me a good foundation in education, and I'm really happy that the district sponsored me back to school and finish it. I'm real close to completing that goal. Career goals. Really, I want to spend some more time at Beaverton. I really enjoy that level of activity, and also realize that I don't want that forever. And just because of my family and what we want to do, being busy is good for a little while, but I don't want to be busy forever. But the second big career goal I have is becoming a battalion chief, and that will be my last step if I am promoted. And that's a big career goal of mine. And That's one of the big reasons why I went back to school to get a broader foundation, and then go back to Beaverton to get a different perspective at the captain role and be able to interact with the battalion chiefs on a daily basis. Really helped me get ready for the battalion chief's position.
Great. How would your current crew describe you?
My crew would describe me really as an energetic person, someone who likes to work hard, and I think they would always say I like to do the right thing. And I think really those, if I were going to give you my strongest traits, those would be them too. And I think I've always been my family has always instilled in me to do the right thing, be honest, and be trustworthy, and my crew will tell you that every day. I'm always saying, hey, we got to do the right thing. We've got to go back and shake hands and communicate with those people. And I think, um, you know, you're going to hear that from me a lot. I think if you work with me, the crew I have, we're really tight. They know I like to work hard. They know why I'm at Beaverton. I've spent majority of my career either on the technical rescue team or working at the busiest station in the fire district. So I think they're going to come right out and be open with that. That I'm a hard worker. They know that I'm up late doing my schoolwork, or I'm up late working on a project or a program, and those are the things that my crew is going to tell you about.
Great. Third question: what is the most challenging assignment that you have ever worked? What did you learn from it, and how will it make you a better battalion chief?
That's a great question. I've had some challenging assignments. When I was promoted to captain, I was placed at our slowest station, at Station 57 at Mountain Road. The station uh, has challenges, and it has challenging people who work there. The people who work there are there for different reasons, and uh, my career has always been at the busier stations uh, that that have hardworking people there. And I'm not trying to say they're not hardworking at 57s, but they have a different motivation level at Mountain Road Station. And it it took me, I would say, I was there for about 2.5 years, and uh, the break-in time for me was pretty lengthy, probably for more than a year. It took me to adjust to that level. And what I did was learn that um, my role was different as captain there. My role uh, for a person who likes to be busy and take on projects and work hard every day drilling has to be different there. And I changed it. I changed my whole outlook, changed my attitude, and really my expectations, because they are different at 57s than 67s, and that's appropriate. I think learning those things, learning how to deal with people, learning how to deal with that different expectation, which uh, I can understand now that we should have. It's a real positive to have different stations that have different expectations. The expectations of emergency response and public events and drilling are really nearly the same at all of them, as far as those need to be priorities every day. But there's so much downtime, and it's so different than Beaverton at Mountain Road. When Beaverton has 5,500 calls a year and Mountain Road has 240, and that was really
That's
hard for me to adjust to. It took a long time, but I took on other projects, changed my expectations of the crews, understood, really got to know the crews and why they were working there, and really a lot of different reasons. But as a battalion chief, that's was a good learning lesson for me, knowing that, especially coming from the tech team in Beaverton, where everyone's motivated every day to drill, 10 hours a day or more, and there's something to be said about those other crews, because I'm going to be in that position someday where maybe I do only have 3 years left, or I have an injury, or whatever the reason is. It doesn't really matter. The expectation should be a little different for some of the downtime, and I think that's a good lesson for me to learn, and will help me become a better, something I need to learn to move on to battalion chief, because those stations are different.
all right. The next question I have for you is kind of it's a situational one. Two officers at Station 51 are not getting along. It's starting to impact morale and working conditions at that fire station. Please outline your plan to handle this situation.
So first and foremost, I really want to get the facts. Find out what information I can, and do some homework without jumping to any conclusions. That's really important with me, and I think as a supervisor, that's should be a high priority to make sure that don't come into the situation thinking something that's bad. And the next, I really want to just sit down with both lieutenants and talk and figure out what is the problem. Maybe I can facilitate a change. I'm a huge believer in sitting down, shaking hands, and talking about it. And I think with the right facilitator, I have a lot of experience doing this and facilitating. I think most of the people who come to work every day come to do the right thing, to do a good job, and to work hard. And sometimes we can get off base or have disagreements for just little things, and when a lot of times they're misunderstandings. And I think, as far as outlining what the plan would be, I think that's my biggest plan, is to get the facts and then sit down with both of them and really talk it out. I think firefighters, when we sit down and we talk about things, we can get along well and really figure out what the problem is, and then figure out what the expectation to move forward is. And I think I'm a big believer in that in the fire service, and I think there's a lot of validity in shaking hands and talking through and trusting each other and building that trust, because it can erode at times, but I think if we do those steps where we shake hands, sit down, talk it out with a good facilitator, we can get back on the right page.
Great. Final question for you, Kraig. Are you prepared to make an uncomfortable and/or unpopular decision that accompanies the position? Give an example where you've had to do this.
You know, yeah, I think just the level of activity that the station I'm at, I think I'm frequently involved in, personnel or program, or even at the government level with the city, being so tied with the station. And, I think a good example would be, I just recently had a firefighter approach me. He's a newer firefighter, a 2-year employee that said that he heard that he didn't like women in the fire service, and kind of said, I want to handle it, I just want your opinion. And I took that and kind of said, well, now that I'm involved, I'm going to be involved, and I'm going to help you facilitate this fix of this problem. And he really fought it, and then brought the lieutenant in on the shift, and they both tried to convince me that he should deal with it on his own with a phone call, and just let it go, and that he was really sorry that he involved me in. And I tried to build some trust with him that I really want to do the right thing, that his reputation's getting damaged, and also that there is some liability that I have in this situation, that the rumor is that he doesn't like women in the fire service, and it's an untrue, damaging rumor. So I convinced him just to drive over to the other fire station and sit down, talk to it, shake hands with the person who is spreading this rumor, and really find it out. And in the end, the firefighter came back and thanked me for the situation, because once we addressed the rumor, it was really just like the scenario we just gave. It was a big misunderstanding that perpetuated a ton of rumors over 1 year's time. And I really feel strongly that, as supervisors, we're going to be placed in those situations where, I've got the firefighter and then the lieutenant saying, hey, just let him handle it, and they're really trying to convince me to do something different. But I think as a supervisor, you can see, especially at the battalion chief level, you can see the liability of the situation, the loss pertaining to it, and then the damage of the reputation, and really the overall trust, I think, of other people. And I think those things alone are hard decisions to make, but we have that responsibility, and we can make them and then make it a positive in the end. And that's what happened in that scenario.
Great. Do you have any last kind of closing comments before we wrap up your interview here?
Well, I just want to say thank you for the interview. I really appreciate it. I feel like I've highlighted some of the accomplishments in my career. I feel like the only thing I really want to talk about real quick is the commitment that I made I was a lieutenant for 10 years, but 4 of them at Beaverton, and that commitment going back to Beaverton as captain is really a big one, and I think it highlights my level of um, ownership for Tualatin Valley, trying to do the right thing, and my family's commitment to the amount of time that it takes, and really, trying to build a better foundation for my career. I think that's the only thing I might add is that I'm committed to battalion chief level position. I have a strong foundation and education for this position, and really just want to add that to this. And thank you for the opportunity, and thanks for the interview.
Okay. So I don't think I'm supposed to stop the broadcast here. So I guess we'll just flip roles.
Yep.
All right. Now
Okay,
I'm
so I'll start Kraig Patti interview for lieutenant. Okay, Kraig, what have you done to prepare for a promotion to lieutenant?
First off, thank you for the opportunity to kind of sit before you here today. Several things. The I guess the biggest commitment and opportunity I've taken to prepare myself has been is going back to school to obtain my bachelor's degree. I'm currently enrolled through Eastern Oregon University, majoring in Fire Service Administration. I am scheduled to graduate in June with a bachelor's degree as well as a minor in communications. It's my goal after that to apply to graduate school at the University of Washington. I would like to obtain a master's in public administration through that institution. I've also taken numerous classes. I've made the kind of the personal commitment to attend the National Fire Academy in Emmitsburg, Maryland, for a week at a time, taking command and control level classes. Those classes are a majority kind of situational based, but the real benefit with that is networking. Most of my classmates in those classes are already seasoned officers, some chief level officers. So I think it's a great benefit to be able to pick their brain, people from different areas of the country, get an idea for their experiences. I've also taken every opportunity I can to act in the position of lieutenant on B shift, specifically at Station 3, which is my station. I'm the only actor on duty, so when my lieutenant is off, I'm sitting in the seat. And also, just on my shift alone, I'm moved around throughout the city to act at our 2 other stations. So I take the opportunities whenever I can. I've been very, very lucky in the experiences that I've had to have educational building experiences. So always picking up lessons from each opportunity.
Great. What skills do you possess which makes you qualified for the lieutenant position?
2 skills that I think I'll highlight. The first and foremost is communication ability. Especially with the minor in communications, I took that minor because everywhere you hear in the fire service, and really any organization, is what is the biggest challenge, and it's always communication. It's always usually one of the top 2 or 3 comments. It's, well, there's a lack of communication, or there's no clear communication. With the classes that I've taken, a lot of them have had to deal with interpersonal communications, listening skills, just being able to read between the lines and be able to formulate your message. I think that I've done a pretty good job of taking some of these lessons that I've learned, taking the skills that I've built to apply it to work even as a rank and file firefighter. We have disagreements just like anybody else, and around as we say in the fire station, the world's problems can be solved and created around the firehouse kitchen table. Mm-hmm. So I've always kind of taken an opportunity to use those skills to really listen to people and be able to actually have dialogue instead of just talking at someone, talking to them, as well as listening to those people, not just hearing them, and listening to what they have to say and how they're saying it. The other skill that I believe I have is the ability to be fairly objective. Within our fire department specifically, we tend to have factions. You're either on one side or the other side of any particular issue. There's a few of us who really, I don't want to say we don't take a position, but we stay in the middle. We can understand both sides and we can communicate with both sides. And I believe that creates a level of respect and a level of trust that we're not going to jump to a conclusion. We're not going to jump to one side because, hey, our buddy's over here. We have loyalties to both sides. And I really, for me, I've really learned the value of getting input on both sides of an issue, not just taking what is popular or what is the kind of the newest, greatest thing.
Hmm. Can you name two challenges you expect to face as a new lieutenant?
I think first and foremost, as being a new lieutenant is always going to be challenging. Making that jump from being one of the worker bees to a supervisor. You know, you're sometimes you kind of are removed from perhaps some of the banter, maybe just some of the camaraderie that could happen. One of the challenges I believe would face me is being a junior person up for the position. The last time I interviewed for lieutenant, it was myself and two other firefighters, two other candidates, and they had 14 years and 13 years respectively within the Bremerton Fire Department, and at the time I had 6. And so going into that, I knew the score. Going in as a junior member, not only are you having to take that challenge of, well, now I have this new position, and instead of just being buddies, I'm your supervisor. Now it's having to prove that, yeah, I haven't been here maybe as long as the senior person, especially on my crew, has been on 25 years, that I am capable and I have earned this promotion. And realizing that all eyes are going to be on me to I don't want to say wait for me to fail, but to see how I'm going to handle those challenges.
Mm.
I think another challenge is just working within my own comfort level. I think it's really easy to say, hey, great, I've got the red helmet now. I'm sitting in the right seat of the fire engine, and I have to do all these reports. But it's also those scenarios that keep you up at night. Well, what happens if we end up with this situation? Have I trained the crew? Have I prepared them to be ready for this? Because now, instead of just being one of the workers, that responsibility really falls to me, and it's a heavier burden. So it's that challenge that you have to place upon yourself of making sure that not only are you right, but is your crew ready? And it's one thing to be a firefighter and say, I'm ready. But now as a lieutenant, I'm responsible for 3, 4, 5 other people. And when we are responding to emergencies, I'm in charge. I'm not the one taking orders for a while. I have to set the tone for that call. If I have a public event, I have to set the tone, set an example. If we have, unfortunately, a citizen complaint, that falls to me. I have to be able to set the tone, set an example, and be able to handle that professionally and represent the city well.
Mhm. Yeah. Can you give a recent example of a conflict and how you dealt with it?
I think a recent conflict that we've had, let me think, there's always kind of a few that are simmering there beneath the surface. A conflict that we had not too long ago was in regards to, we have people that are grumpy. That's kind of the best way to say it. And most of these people have been on quite a while. They're experienced, and they already have their preconceived notions of how events should work out. We had a newer person assigned to our station. He wasn't on my crew. He was on the following shift that came in after us. Enthusiastic guy, really a go-getter. Still believes that, hey, this is the best place to work. We do no wrong. How can you not enjoy coming to work? It hasn't been dealt with any sort of disappointment that maybe some more senior people have. And there was just a clash of personalities, and it was this younger person, just instead of just kind of keeping their mouth shut and just kind of going about their way and going about their business, decided to respond to what was probably meant as more of a just kind of fodder, just kind of a little bit of banter and good-natured ribbing. The younger person didn't react very well, and it created a little bit of hostility, some raised voices, and I kind of took it upon myself not only as maybe more of a I hate to say it because I don't feel this way yet as a senior member, all decade on the department, but that person I felt that at that moment in time I could come in and maybe just kind of release some of that tension within that, and just kind of get the people aside and just hey, let's cool down, here,
Mm-hmm.
um, and just take that opportunity to, hey, you know, this is just this is good natured ribbing.
Right.
The old fire service, if they're not making fun of you, they don't like you. I know sometimes, I know for me personally, I must be the most popular person in the fire department because I'm always getting made fun of. But this person, it just, it caught the mood's just caught right. And so just taking that time to diffuse the situation. And to the senior person, just, hey, remember what it was like when you were newer, and those older guys who you were intimidated over, and don't let them fool you. They're intimidated. Um, give them a break. You don't need to be on them all the time.
Yeah. Uh, is there anything else you'd like to add which might lead us to believe you are the best candidate?
Well, I've gone over my education, which I believe is important. I believe as we move on and get as the future of the fire service progresses, education is going to be a requirement. It's going to be a mandate. I'm doing what I can to be able to position myself to be an example of, hey, it's really never too late to go back to college. I'm excited about where I've come and where I'm going in that regards. As for within the Bremerton Fire Department, I really like to consider myself especially as a great candidate for a lieutenant, but also as part of a younger group of officers that are really starting to emerge. Uh, within our agency, we're starting to see that cultural shift as our older members are starting to retire, and there's been a little bit of a divide. It used to be that knowledge was passed down, and sometimes that's not happening. There's definitely a generational gap. There tends to be that creates some tension. Um, there's also some of the feelings that these older officers are holding on, and uh, they're not willing to change with the times. And as a person who's coming up who's still young within the fire service, and I see these younger officers who have progressed and they've really taken the attitude is, I'm a lieutenant. It doesn't make me the boss. I'm still part of the crew. Um, in the mornings, I'm still going to be up helping do morning chores. You can count on me to still help, still be part of doing the rig checks, still a member of the crew, and I'm gonna take my share of the calls. I personally, my officer is a great example of what an officer should be. Last year in the Bremerton Fire Department, he ran the single most incidences of anybody, not just officers, of anybody. He was the number one person. I believe that's the first time in the history of our fire department, which is 113 years old, that a officer has ran the most calls. So he's been a really great example of how to be um, a lead by example person. My former officer that I had just before my current one, he's going to graduate school right now. Um, he, I can only hope that maybe one day he's our chief. And the example he has set, the examples he has set is how he has gone about his maturity growth. Um, I believe that I really look to within the mirror as far as growth goes, personal growth. I'm my biggest critic. How can I be better? And so I believe that I'm really on the right track. I believe I can continue that pattern that our new officers have uh, have paved of how the Bremerton Fire Department can really come into the 21st century, be a modern, progressive, dynamic organization.
Great, awesome. Thanks for the interview.
All right, thank you, Craig. So I'm gonna